This is your reality check.
Welcome to The Reality Check, the weekly Canadian show that explores a wide range of controversies and curiosities using science and critical thinking. Today is October 17th, 2021, and I'm producer Pat. We have three interesting segments for you today. Darren tells us about a book called The Next 500 Years, Engineering Life to Reach New Worlds. I bring you a game of Name That, which was recorded when the whole crew was together last week. But first, Adam does a follow-up on his segment about QR codes and Ontario launching its proof of vaccine program. I hope everyone out there is staying safe and healthy, and we will talk to you soon.
What's up, cuboids? QR codes are all the rage again. I'm recording this on October 15th, and this is the day that Ontario began its proof of vaccination program. In a show last month, we discussed QR codes and the applications that have been used in Quebec. And at the time, I had a security concern with the way the application worked. But now that Ontario's app is out, this becomes an even bigger problem, as a person using applications that are written by Canada's provincial governments could use a Quebec resident's QR code to get their vaccination details in a few seconds. To recap, the general idea of a QR code is that it's a sort of 2D barcode that stores some amount of data. In this case, the data in a QR code stores a user's vaccine details in a string of numbers, which doesn't mean much if you just use your phone to read that code, but when decoded with a government-supplied application, it's able to tell a business if a user is vaccinated. So the idea is that I can store this QR code on my phone, I can display it, and the person at the business that I'm going to, a non-essential business basically, will be able to see that I'm safe to come in. There is more data in the code itself than simply the name and green check mark that the business sees. But there still isn't that much more detail. So it's pretty much your name, date of birth, the specifics of those vaccines, and that can vary by area, but in Quebec, that's the date at which the vaccines were administered, the locations, the type of vaccines, and other tracking information like a lot number of the vaccine. As I mentioned on the previous show, the potential exploit involved using the VaxiCode app, which is intended for citizens, to scan a code instead of using the VaxiCode Verif app, which is intended for businesses. So under the pretense of being a citizen that's just scanning your own code, you can add someone else's vaccination proof to your phone. This can be used to scan a QR code of another person's proof. You can do that through a photo or a screenshot of a code and then add it to your phone. As a security measure, the application requires you to enter the year of birth of the person whose code you're scanning, and then it'll add the passport and you'll have access to all those details. This may appear secure, and as I mentioned previously, it's actually pretty easy to guess someone's year of birth. The system doesn't lock you out if you make failed guesses. You can easily sort of try 10 or 20 dates if you can guess someone's age within a decade, which isn't generally that hard. So, what's the further issue here? With more and more provinces coming out with vaccine passport type apps, some of them work between provinces, some of them do not. So if you scan a Quebec QR code with the Verify Ontario app, it will display not only the person's vaccination status, so a green check mark, for example, but also their full date of birth and their name. So the reason for this given is that the business is then meant to confirm the data by verifying both a person's name and date of birth on a person's ID. I guess they're worried, I don't know. I'm going to steal another Adam Gardner with a different birthdays QR code or something like that. So what this also means is that with very little trouble, someone can use a quick combination of the Verify Ontario app and Quebec's VaxiCode app to see the details encoded on one's QR code. They don't even have to try a bunch of dates to get it. Only takes a few seconds. So I open the Verify Ontario app, I scan the QR code, I see the date of birth displayed. I note the year of birth. This is an easy enough number to store in my own memory because I only really have to remember the last two digits. I then open the VaxiCode app. I click plus to scan your existing vaccination proof. It's not mine, but the app doesn't know. I scan the code, enter the year of birth. I can click show details. I see all of the person's vaccination details. Scary? Not really. So how widespread is this problem? Now, I didn't try every permutation of every province's app and QR codes. I only have a Quebec QR code for myself, and I got an Ontario QR code from Christina to test some things out. The Quebec app can't read an Ontario QR code, so this particular exploit won't work to get the details of someone from Ontario's vaccination specifics. I also tried the BC Vaccine Card Verifier app, which is used in British Columbia, another province in Canada. In this case, it did not accept either the Ontario or Quebec QR codes. So this brings us back to the main question. Does it really matter? As I mentioned last month, I don't think someone's vaccine information is particularly useful to anyone. No one is likely able to compromise my identity or harm me in any way simply by knowing when, where, and what vaccines I got. There is no incentive I can think of for a business to take photos of a client's QR code in order to get this information later. The main useful detail might be the date of birth, which is already visible on the Ontario app itself. So if a business wanted to compromise your information by recording your name and date of birth when you came in, they could just take screenshots of the Ontario app. They don't actually need to go and save your code somehow. The simple fact is that governments are making an effort to mask the specifics of these from the applications used by businesses, so these exploits are revealing information which is not meant to be readily available. It's just that information doesn't happen to be all that useful. So let's consider the alternatives. If we didn't have a QR code system, I imagine we would be going around with a card, including exactly the details which are encoded on this thing. So this is where QR code is potentially more secure, not less secure. You would show it to a business and then they would see that information with their own eyes. Similarly, if you're out of province or showing a paper proof of vaccination, you're already showing this exact information. So my sister, for example, was in town this past week. She was asked to show her British Columbia proof of vaccination at one place. She needed to reveal the details because she can't just show a QR code. It's meaningless. Ontario wasn't prepared to scan her code, so they needed to see that stuff. Also in Ontario, there isn't actually an app to store your QR code from. You just have to save a picture or the PDF of your proof of vaccination. So you could print this out, but then when you're showing the piece of paper to someone, they'll be able to see in big, bold letters your name, your date of birth, the dates on which you were vaccinated, the vaccines administered, the lot details, all that information that's on the QR code itself. I didn't see the location information on the Ontario proof of vaccination that I saw, so I suspect that this information is not in the code either. So even if you've got this PDF saved on your phone, you're probably opening that up and having the text visible while you sort of zoom in to try to get the QR code visible so that the person can scan it. So the most secure thing you could do is crop the QR code out and save it as a new photo on your phone. But then you got to be sure that you have it as a favorite or maybe add some sort of shortcut so you can find it easily if you're trying to go to a movie, get a drink, whatever you want to do. In addition to this proof of vaccination, a person is usually asked to show an additional piece of ID. So I thought we were just going to have to be showing people these codes, but the one time I actually used my vaccine passport was to sit down at Subway and eat with my family. I needed to show another piece of ID. So the piece I showed was my driver's license. That includes details like my address. It's an old address because I haven't updated it, but it's still my address, and your date of birth. Now, not to mention my actual driver's license number, which is a semi-protected piece of information which could be used as a data point to try to compromise my identity. So that's not the kind of number I like to just share with anybody for no reason unless they need to have it. Similarly, people have been asked to show ID for non-essential services like buying alcohol and cigarettes for a very long time. Those pieces of ID generally include information which you should be more concerned about safeguarding than what vaccines you got. While you shouldn't let someone get a photo of your QR code, you also shouldn't let them get a photo of your driver's license or your credit card. It's all about proportionality. The QR code only has the information which is needed. Showing the vaccination specifics isn't necessary to confirm your vaccination status, and so it shouldn't be revealed to the person scanning your code. I don't really think it's that big a deal, though. This will, of course, vary from place to place. This little trick only works with Quebec QR codes, but with many places having their own programs, it's very possible a similar exploit will work elsewhere, and it's likely that someone can write a program to extract data from someone's QR code, unless there's some complex encryption used. So for Quebec, for example, someone had written some code, someone had been able to get someone's information from that QR code. So I suggest you play around with whatever applications you're aware of in your area to have an idea of what businesses might see and how your data may potentially be compromised. A user should understand what's in their code, which in these cases is the actual information which is included in the full PDF or paper proof of vaccination. They should then consider that whenever they're sharing that code with someone, that this person could potentially be able to see all of the data that's in that code. In this case, that information simply isn't all that interesting, but in other cases, it might actually be something you want to do a better job of safeguarding. As a reminder, in case this segment has you thinking that I'm trying to disparage vaccine passports, you really should get vaccinated if you haven't already. Instead of looking at the programs as a way to restrict what you can do, turn that on its head and consider that what it's doing is allowing you to go to non-essential businesses where previously they were completely restricted to everyone because we didn't have vaccines and it was still dangerous. A vaccine grants you not only the freedom to frequent non-essential businesses like theaters, restaurants, bars, and gyms, but also a sort of freedom from getting sick, as your likelihood and severity of symptoms are significantly decreased. That's the whole point of the vaccine. QR codes aren't that complicated, though the relatively simple applications can have some unintended consequences depending on some permutations. Be aware of what's in your code and who you share it with. Peace out, cuboids.
All right, here we go with everyone's favorite mostly guessing game, Name That. Today we play another edition of the pain in the butt to research, but always fun to play, Spot the Fake.
Yes! Woo!
I can't remember the last game we played. It's been probably almost 2 years. All right, we have 5 questions, no tiebreaker today. If we're tied after 5 questions, we'll end that way. For each question, I will give you 4 so-called facts. 3 are true, 1 is not, and I'll ask you to spot the fake. I've randomly determined our starting order and will rotate. Adam, you're up first. Spot the fake. A. In 2015, an online petition to change the name of Australia's currency to the dollary-do received support from more than 13,000 people. B.
It's not a lot of people.
B. The toenail on your little toe is called the spungle.
Okay.
C. In the 1930s, wheat producers in the United States printed floral designs on flour sacks so consumers could recycle the material as clothing. Or D. In France and many Hispanic countries, instead of the tooth fairy, a little mouse is said to replace lost baby teeth of children from under their pillows with coins.
That's frightening.
I'm going to say that mouse one is fake just because I've not heard it. Obviously, Quebec and French-Canadian culture is somewhat separated from France, but I feel like I would have at least heard that one. So
But you've heard the other 3?
no, they just seem more plausible.
Right.
To be fair, dollary-do is a great name.
All right, so Adam says the tooth mouse is the fiction. Next is Darren.
Once again, great selection, Pat. I'm like, yeah, no, yeah, mm-hmm. So I'm going to actually go with Adam here, not to gamify this early, just because, well, I'll pick D.
And lastly, Christina.
I'm going to go with A because I think that sounds like something that could be true. It's kind of a little tricky, trying to pull the wool over our eyes. So I'm going to go with A.
So Christina says the dollary-do is the fake. There was a petition to change Australia's currency to the dollary-do.
Damn.
The little mouse instead of the tooth fairy is true. Wheat producers did print floral designs on flour sacks. The little toenail called a spungle is made up. Question number 2. Darren, spot the fake. A. The United Nations reported in 2013 that more people in the world had mobile phones than access to a flush toilet. B. Osama bin Laden had copies of Charlie Bit My Finger and crochet tutorials on his computer. C. All fossils found in Canada belong to the Queen. Or D. Spaghetti is the plural of spaghetto.
Oh my God, Pat.
Oh, no. I'm like, graffiti is the plural. Again, good choice, Pat. I'm like, all of these won't go through the logic to aid my, competitors here. I will say that our fossils, they really do seem like they belong to the Queen. I'm not going to say they don't.
Just because she dug them up.
Just because she was alive at the time.
Darren says all fossils in Canada do not belong to the Queen. Next is Christina.
Just very quickly run down the questions.
I can. 2013, more people had mobile phones than a flush toilet. Osama bin Laden had copies of Charlie Bit My Finger and crochet tutorials. All fossils belong to the queen. Spaghetti is the plural of spaghetto.
I'm going to go with A. Mobile phones.
Christina says A. And lastly, Adam.
Yeah, I think the spaghetti one's fake. I don't know a lot of Italian, but I don't think you just change it to an I when it's plural. I don't think that's how it works. That's my guess.
All right. Spaghetti is the plural of spaghetto.
Wow, really?
More people did have mobile phones than access to a flush toilet in 2013. Osama bin Laden did have those things on his computer. Fossils belong to the queen is made up.
Oh, one for Darren.
Takes a definitive lead is what I would say.
Of one.
Well, it's definitive.
It is definitive.
Question number 3. Christina, spot the fake. A. The Boy Scouts were counted as part of the American military until 1986. B. Scotland's national animal is the unicorn. C. Lego makes more tires than any other country. Or D. A group of ferrets is called a business.
Legos, tires, ferrets. What was A and B again? Sorry.
Boy Scouts were counted as military in America until 1986, and Scotland's national animal is a unicorn.
Come on. A unicorn. That's got to be it, but I'm going to go with the Boy Scouts.
Christina, for the third time in a row, has picked A, the Boy Scouts. Next is Adam.
I think it was the fourth one, but I can't remember. Could you run through them again?
Boy Scouts counted as American military, 86. Scotland's national animal is the unicorn. Lego makes more tires than any other company. A group of ferrets is called a business.
Oh, yes. Okay. The first time the tires one, I think you said country, which confused me. You said Lego makes more tires than any other country.
I apologize. Any other company.
That changes things a little bit. Only if I lose it changes things.
I believe the ferret one is fake because when there's ferrets around, it's a party.
So Adam, for the third time, has picked D. Lastly, Darren.
Good old rock. Nothing beats rock. It's either A or D. I'll pick D.
All right, Darren agrees with Adam. Lego does make more tires than any other company. A group of ferrets is called a business.
Damn.
Scotland's national animal is the unicorn.
Yes.
The Boy Scouts counted as military is made up.
That's good, I think.
That was my logic.
In hindsight, I seem to be correct, but in actuality, I was wrong.
All right, question number 4. Adam, spot the fake.
Wait, have we just glossed over the fact that Scotland's national animal is the unicorn? Seriously.
I'm surprised a bit.
But
I guess unicorns are older than I thought, but...
What do you mean older than you thought? They're mythical.
Yes.
I think that's Christina's point.
yeah. Scottish listeners, you know what to do. info@trcpodcast.com.
Question number 4. Adam, spot the fake. A,
Yep.
Pope Francis used to be a nightclub bouncer. B,
What?
Cookie Monster's real first name is Sid.
Jeez.
Sid.
C, today more messages are sent using carrier pigeons than are sent via fax. Or D, originally the Eiffel Tower was going to be erected in Barcelona, but the project was rejected because citizens thought it was an eyesore.
Citizens in Paris thought it was an eyesore as well. I think Christina talked about that
They did.
many years ago.
Yeah.
I think we love to make fun of facts because when people ask for it, it's like, come on, it's not the Stone Age. But like, I think people still do ask for it, and I think they're used more frequently than carrier pigeons or pigeons. That's my guess, C.
All right, next is Darren.
I was going to pick the opposite of Adam, but now that he's pointed it out, I'm reflecting on this because I think we underestimate how many messages are sent by pigeon. But then I'm thinking, well, how many other countries still use faxes and we don't?
Canada.
Okay. Yeah, I keep siding with Adam on this one, but I now feel swayed. Although the bouncer thing seems ridiculous. Sid Cookie? All right. I'll pick the pigeon one again.
All right. Darren agrees with Adam. And lastly, Christina.
Pat, what was D again?
The Eiffel Tower was originally going to be in Barcelona.
Yeah. I'm going to go with D.
All right. Christina goes with D. Cookie Monster's real name is Sid.
I knew that one, actually.
The Eiffel Tower was going to be erected in Barcelona.
Damn it.
The Pope was a bouncer.
Come on.
More messages by carrier pigeon than faxes made up. The Pope was a bouncer when he was studying. I thought that was really interesting when he was in school.
That is wild.
All right, going into the last question, I have Darren with 2, Adam with 1, and Christina with 1. Question number 5. Darren, spot the fake.
But it goes to Darren at first, so that the interesting opportunities for gamification, y'all.
Right. A, you've heard of a 4-leaf clover. The most leaves ever found on a clover is 56. B, before mercury, brandy was used to fill thermometers. C, you don't have to be a lawyer to be a Supreme Court justice. Or D, there exists a Sherlock Holmes story containing a kiss between Holmes and Watson, but all copies are held by the Doyle estate.
We'll go for elementary, my dear Watson. Pick D.
Darren says D. Next is Christina.
I think D is true. C.
Christina goes with the Supreme Court. Lastly is Adam.
Okay. I have a lot of thoughts on clovers. I think the common wisdom about the rarity of 4-leaf clovers is a total sham. I have found dozens.
Shamrock.
But 56. What was B again?
Brandy in thermometers.
I think B, the brandy in thermometers, is fake just because I find the other ones more believable.
All right, Adam picks the thermometer. You don't have to be a lawyer to be a Supreme Court justice. The most leaves found on a clover is 56. Wow. Brandy was used to fill thermometers. The Holmes-Watson story, Kiss, is made up. Congrats to Darren.
Book review of The Next 500 Years. That's the title of the book. The Next 500 Years, subtitle Engineering Life to Reach New Worlds by Christopher E. Mason, is an interesting exploration of how humanity could use genetic engineering to become a multi-planetary species. It argues for our moral duty to preserve humanity and then describes different phases over the next 500 years regarding how we might change our biological selves to become more spacefaring. Mm-hmm. Mason is highly knowledgeable about genetics and computational biology. He covers a wide range of topics and manages to inject a little humor from time to time. That said, a lot of the book was quite technical and not so accessible for the educated lay reader. Once again, I feel I have to brush up on my molecular biology. It's like, okay, yeah, DNA, RNA, fine with that. Cytokines, what were those again? Interleukin 4, okay. But then it got more complicated, and often there'd be a term where you're like, I kind of know what that means. Introduce it as an acronym, right? And then use it 3 pages later, and you're like, I forgot what that meant.
Yes.
Yeah. Additionally, there's very little attention in the book to the idea that we might make sentient machines, cyborgs, or uploads in the next couple hundred years.
Oh,
and that those are the entities that will be involved in our space travel.
Yeah, that's the obvious one, right?
So I applaud the effort to put out a 500-year timeline, but it seems a bit like folly given how difficult it is to anticipate change even 100 years out, even 1 year out. For example, describing 2020 in 1820 would have been fun and worthwhile, but likely useless for accuracy. Now, as capabilities accelerate even faster, and given where we already are, to try to do 2220 seems truly fantastical in terms of what could happen. Mm-hmm. So overall, I liked the book, and I appreciated getting to reflect on what might be possible while better understanding various constraints. For example, radiation seems like a very difficult problem to solve for any human traveling in space.
Absolutely.
Our nice magnetosphere is doing a lot. Thank you, Iron Core. As well, the reminder that Earth will be uninhabitable in 600 million to about 1 billion years because of the changes in our sun, and that eventually means either issues with the oceans, the atmosphere, or just the sun consuming the Earth. So we will have to leave Earth or move Earth itself.
I think we've got enough time to figure that out.
I think we do. But it is interesting then when people are like, I don't know how I feel about, climate engineering. I'm like, well, sooner or later. I mean, you don't have the option to say no unless I don't believe in climate engineering. I do believe in Dyson sphere manipulation of the sun so we don't have to do it on Earth.
Well, I guess in theory, I could accept that people would have such a reverence for the planet Earth that we wouldn't want to engineer the climate on Earth, but then you just go engineer the climate on the moon or on Mars or something. At one point, there you have to be practical about it. Maybe that's what the solution is going to be, right?
Hey, give or take a couple 100 million years.
Sure.
So if you're interested in the biological aspect of humanity in space, you might want to check this out. Otherwise, maybe just read some articles about it. Until next time, think better, act better.
For show notes or to discuss this episode, visit our Facebook page and website at trcpodcast.com. For general inquiries or to send a topic or parody suggestion, email info@trcpodcast.com. Help support the show by leaving a review on iTunes and liking us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at @TRC_podcast.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, I hate this Snowball. I hate you, Snowball. I hate you, Snowball.
Pegasus is a winged horse. Unicorn has a horn. You can be both.
Correct.
Pegacorn,
Yep.
or whatever you want to call it. But
Pegacorn sounds a bit salacious, Adam. That's not appropriate for this podcast.
okay.